Welcome to another episode of Mac Trains. First of all, I have to insert this additional piece of video footage to apologise. What's to follow is an interview with Simon Kohler III in our series of interviews with Simon, and I'm very grateful to him for being willing to come back again. However, the original footage for this interview failed, and so what we have presented here is my backup audio recording, which is not of such good quality. So my apologies for that. That is going to affect your enjoyment, but I think it's still worthwhile putting out the interview even with the second-rate audio. And because there's no video, it is simply accompanied with some shunting of my own layout in the background that is done very much as a filler. The main show here is definitely the interview with Simon, and so my apologies to Simon as well for presenting this in a subpar manner, but the material I think is of such value that I still feel it's worth putting out in this form. So enjoy. With that caveat, I look forward to your comments. A very warm welcome to Simon Kohler, and a sincere thank you once again for taking the time to speak with us here at Mac Trains. You are, of course, now out of Hornby. You've taken Kohler Comms off the back burner, and you're forging ahead with that venture. I rather suspect that the recent past is not so easy to leave behind in that way as a train pulling away from the station, and there's plenty of questions that many of us have at this time about the hobby and exactly what went on and why, I suppose, all of which led to yourself and Hornby parting of the ways rather abruptly. But I thought what we'd do today, if it's okay with yourself, is start with where you are now, what's happening ahead of you, looking at Kohler Comms especially and your vision for that venture. Then take a step back, a step away as well, and take a bit of an overall analysis of the industry as a more objective observer now. Include the state of Hornby and all that's happened there, but where you think things are at and where you think things are going to go. And then, if you feel able, certainly end a little bit of comment about what went on within Hornby and yourself. Obviously, stuff you won't want to speak about, so if anyone here is watching this with the intention of finding some sort of salacious gossip or other, please don't hang on to the end of the video for that. That's not what we're about. But we just think it's worthwhile to have Simon's perspective on these things. I think it is relevant to our industry and hopefully useful for those who are joining us. So if I can get my notes to behave here. First of all, I think I know some of the answer to this, but for those who don't, where are you now? What are you up to? And how's that going? In the broadest terms, you're obviously not Hornby, but you are still active. You're not a retired man. You are busy with different irons in the fire.
What am I doing? As many of you probably know, many of your watchers are aware, I did, during my sabbatical some years ago, start up my own business, Kohler Comms, which basically was doing anything and everything I could do to turn a penny, because I hadn't reached retirement age, the rest of it, and I needed to make a living. And I also did some consultancy work for various people, such as the Science Museum. I did some work for Hornby, and wrote various blogs under the Simon Says heading. And really, I was doing that, and the same time went back to Hornby. So when I left Hornby this time, and as I say, it seems to be a career thing at the moment, was just really set that business up again, just take it out of mothballs and start again. Only this time, it wasn't quite, if you like, so urgent. You know, there was no real urgency about it. So what I have been doing over the summer months, and I'm in what I call my winter office. My summer months are actually in a garden shed at the bottom of the garden. which is very nice because when the sun shines, it comes through the door and I get a bit of sun. And that's one of the nicest things about working for yourself. You know, you can get out, walk around the garden and enjoy and savour life that little bit more. In other words, you smell the roses. But anyway, going back to what I'm doing, offering my services to those who maybe want to take their business to another level. Not sure what to do, how to do it. I've done that. I've done quite a bit of writing, a few articles and so on. Working on various projects with various clients, some to do with model railways, others to do with other things. So in some ways, it's sort of I'm sort of a little bit like a whore, really. You know, if somebody wants to hire me, I'm for hire, and I will turn my hand to really anything that I can help people with. But as I say, it's not quite splurging. What it has given me the opportunity is sort of work-life balance a little bit, really, where it's not quite so intense. I don't get up at whatever it is, 4:15 in the mornings anymore. I stretch that out now to about 6:45, which is quite nice.
Very indulgent of you, 6:45.
I know. Trust me, after sort of early starts, it is very much like a lie-in. Yeah. I'm in the office, in my office, at the bottom of the garden. Really by about 7:30 with a cup of tea, and sort of do the emails as I normally do, and a bit of research work and so on. In my quieter times, I've been started off as writing an article on TT and Hornby TT 120 and how that came about, moving that forward. And before you know where you are with it, I was sort of basically a book, whether it'll be a book, but what I've tried to do is sort of put down the various processes of how TT 120 or Hornby TT 120 came about. And so it could be used for a bit of history at a later date, but I thought it was important that it was put down so people are aware at a later date. So so I'm keeping busy in between time now. It's sort of raking up the leaves on the lawn and looking after a poorly dog that had to have an operation a week or so back. So
that's not so good. Yeah.
All in all, it's pretty cool, pretty good.
And your area with the Kohler Commons, you obviously opened it up. Is it mostly within the sort of hobby world, the modelling world, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. It is. That's my expertise.
Yeah. So is that everything from like a small model shop starting up to a different brands that might be looking to bring things forward to market?
Yes, that's the sort of thing. Yeah. Or it could be a manufacturer looking to go to the next level, trying to figure out how where their time's going. They seem to be sort of working 24/7, but not progressing anywhere. Sure. And then sort of going to the business, spending a couple of days there, looking at it, and then making recommendations.
Okay. And is there a Kohler Comms website that people can look at to find more information?
That is something that I haven't had a chance to do. I was talking to my son about it the other day. Kohler Comms as a website is registered, and we will, over the next couple of months or so, be putting something together. But I also want it to be perhaps something else, not just a page saying this is what I do, but maybe the odd video just talking about the state of the industry. Yeah, really, very good. Something like that.
We'll keep an eye out for that. Certainly.
Podcast. Yeah. Much of a podcast.
That's it. You're leaping forward in all this technology. Okay, you've mentioned there that kind of idea of putting up comment about the state of the industry. I think that's a valid area. Your perspective on that, I think, has got to be useful and beneficial. Obviously, right now, economically, in all sorts of areas, by no means just hobbies, but inevitably hobbies can get hit particularly bad in downturns because it is extra spending that isn't necessary in other areas. It's not life spending. So what's your analysis of where the industry's at generally just now? Do you feel that there's one company that's in a particularly good place, or what's your take on where things are at in the model railway world?
Well, one of the benefits is that where I am at the moment, I can step back, and I now have time to sort of read the magazines, look at all the postings that the various companies put out there, engage really where the industry, and I always stress that it is an industry, where it's going, and really how it's changed, and it's changed quite dramatically over recent years. Quite a bit has to do, I think, with COVID and people's approach to the world that they live in, again, due to COVID. And I think a huge amount of rethinking needs to happen in this business. I think the industry favours those that are fleet of foot, those that can keep their overheads down, and therefore offer their models with maximum detail at a relatively low cost.
Yeah,
and I think that is important. I don't think it's be all and end all. Whenever I've done any kind of research, cost has always featured probably third or fourth from the top. The top being they want something that, the consumer wants something that's right, that looks right, and they like the detail.
Yeah.
Cost, as I say, is very much a secondary thing.
I think if you get something and it, no matter how beautifully detailed it is, if it doesn't run right, I'm not interested.
No, exactly.
The mechanisms in that regard of what makes it just reliable run because inevitably you have problems with track. I know we shouldn't. We all do at different points. There are always places in our track that are black spots that cause trouble. And if we get some trains that just never, ever, ever go over that spot without stopping, and it just drives you nuts. Whereas other ones will glide over as if there was no problem at all. And so I think that idea of companies being nimble enough, and that is more difficult for the bigger established companies. Obviously, it's easier for the startups, but inevitably they're aiming to get bigger, and then they have the same issues. But at this point, that idea of being able to adapt to what's been required in the marketplace, I think, is hugely important for the established companies.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. The running characteristics have to be, paramount. This is where I always said, where railroad was concerned, Hornby Railroad, that you still needed all the pickups on the wheels. You needed a good motor. It needed to run. You didn't want the big hand coming to push it over the points like the old train locos used to have. Yeah. It has to run, and then detail can follow on, and you get what you pay for, I suppose, at the end of the day. Yeah. But no, I think the industry as such is due for a change.
Sure.
And it is changing.
The back in the early days, I suppose, of these things, there was the ready to run models and there was the scratch built, and they were very distinct. And the scratch built was really no threat to the companies producing ready to run models. With the advent of your 3D printing that people can do at home, that does shift the balance in some ways in what people are willing to get, I think, and put up with in different places. What they can produce relatively easily by themselves now is of a much higher standard than what ham-fisted people like myself could ever have attempted by scratch building something. And that puts pressure then on the companies that are available, what they can produce and how they can justify us spending our money there rather than producing it ourselves.
Yeah, I think 3D printing is still very much in its infancy, and can only improve, get more refined, and the machines will fall in price as well, and become easier to use. I mean, that's technology. Yeah. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. There'll be more and more people creating their own little bits and pieces. So, they will buy a railroad loco, print the various detail bits off and add them to it, and end up with a super detailed model. There still will be the need to, cut and shunt, as they say, cut and shut, and go at it with a scalpel. But I think it can only do good for what the hobby is all about.
Yeah, I think that's important for people not to feel threatened by it. Yeah, it is. It's a positive development in the industry, and it should be a case of how can the established companies work with this to still prove they have value to add to it. And I think that can be done. I would agree.
But let's not forget there are people who want to model railways, but don't feel they have the skill or even possibly the time to do modelling as such. Yeah. Modelling to them is take it out of a box, put it on a track, and off it goes. Yeah. I mean, ideally, to keep costs down of a model loco is to produce the basic model and the body, and all your bits and pieces are in a bag so they can be added by the consumer. That has been tried and is not always over successful because people, they don't probably have the hand skills or the time or the patience to put it all together.
Yeah, my own dexterity in that area is lacking.
They want something out of the box, on the track, and off it goes. And if that's what they want to call themselves a railroad modeler, that's fine. As long as they buy something. As long as they buy, I don't care what they call themselves. That's where they get the beauty with model railways is that it is such a wide church, such a broad church. It can be, people who just get a load of bits and pieces and make a loco. It could be right at the other end where they just open the box and put it on the track. And there's all that bit in between. Is what do you want? What do you get out of modelling railways? People get the thrill out of actually creating a scene, a specific moment in time, as I always like to say. And that's it. And really the loco can end up being, or the train, being secondary.
Yeah.
Or you'll have where the loco and the running of the trains is important and they forget about the scenery. They're not interested, just laying the track. Or you get those people who want to make it automatic. So it covers so many different areas. And I've always found that so fascinating.
Yeah, there's a huge variety. Railways. You can find two people who they discover they've got a shared interest, but their interests are opposite ends of the spectrum of the hobby. And what they actually do with what they purchase from Hornby or Bachmann or whoever is radically different. One literally sets up his train set on his kitchen table, runs it round and is delighted, and then puts it away again for 2 weeks. The other one is working on every blade of grass to make it all the same height in the lawn and so on. And that's wonderful to have. I think that's one that attracts the hobby. It has such room for different approaches. What about?
Great.
What about then? That, as an overview of where the hobby's at, inevitably you've got a specialism in the industry, but your particular area has been Hornby. Hornby has become a bit of a whipping boy, I think, in some areas for the last few months. Have there been missteps there? Apart from, of course, the exit stage left of one Mr. S. Kohler. Is there other things that you think, well, I wish they hadn't done that?
Well, it's a very good question, and a tricky one to answer. People make the decisions because they are there at the coalface.
Yeah.
It is ever so easy when you're not in the mine, you're on the top there, to try and make a decision when you haven't got all the facts.
Sure.
So what people may feel, or I feel, is, wish they hadn't done that. We are probably not aware of all the reasons and why that particular decision has been made. There have been a couple of things that I've seen in the magazines, which if I had been there, I wouldn't have done, which is mainly to do with the advertising. Either the advert I felt wasn't good enough or didn't do enough to promote what it was meant to be advertising.
Okay.
Or it was inappropriate at this time of year. But again, I'm not there. People make these decisions who are there now, and they believe that's the right decision. Not really up to me to criticise what they do, but it's I think, as I say, if I'd been there, I probably would have done it differently.
Okay, that's fair enough.
It's not. I'm not probably answering it satisfactorily, the question satisfactorily, but as I say, it is easy when you're not there, because I've had this, where people have criticised something that we've done, but they're not fully aware of all the facts and the reasons why that has happened, and why the decisions have been made the way they have been made. So, at the end of the day, history will probably dictate whether it was the right decision or not.
Sure. Over the various sort of...
That's sufficiently vague enough.
We'll edit that one down. What about the different sort of strands that Hornby have? They're running, in that sense, there's the two scales, there's 00 and TT, and there's also scale agnostic power and control, particularly the new DCC Bluetooth chips, HM7000.
Yeah.
As a quick, in your head, right, out of 10, how good is HM7000 right now? Is it in a good place out of 10? And then the same for 00 and the same for TT.
Right. 7000 is still very much in its evolution stage. I mean, you're at the iPhone 1 stage, if you like.
Yeah.
And it can only improve, develop, etc. The plan going forward is very, very exciting. I will say that the idea of Bluetooth as a control system was probably first mooted at Hornby 10, 12 years or so ago, easily. And it was sort of poo-pooed because Bluetooth was very much a small fraction of what, from what it is now.
And the range wasn't anywhere near, in the early days, the range was only maybe 10 metres, you just didn't have that.
Bluetooth was an accident. It was a Nokia accident, apparently. Where Hornby is at the moment will certainly not be where it is in 2, 3, 4 years' time.
Sure.
It will evolve and develop.
Yeah.
Obviously, with anything like that, which is so groundbreaking, there will be areas that will come to a blind alley and say, "Oh no, that's the wrong. We'll go this way."
Yeah.
But that's the same with any kind of electronic equipment. That's why Microsoft seemed every Wednesday to update my computer, or iPhone keep doing their own updates.
Yeah, or Zoom in order to hold back a meeting.
Yeah, exactly, and that people must accept that. The beauty with Hornby 7000 system is, one, it allows people to at a very low cost get into digital DCC, which is a great system. When you look at it, it's a fabulous system, and is a logical step to move forward when you're controlling a model railway. It will evolve, it will develop, and it will only get stronger. And I am convinced it is definitely the route to go. Yeah. So although there may have been a couple of errors, etc., that's part of the evolution of it.
So go on then. So, out of 10.
Out of 10, I think at the moment I would probably give it 7, knowing that in a year's time it will be 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So you've got to remember you're at the very start of something like this. So I think what they've done, where they are, bearing in mind, of course, that digital, the chips necessary for the whole system to work have been in very short supply.
Yeah, that was
that hasn't helped matters much either.
Yeah. Okay, so 7 for HM 7000. The 7 and 7 fit in nicely there. Yeah. What about 00? What's the state of?
You saw what I did there, didn't you?
That's it. That was entirely delivered, not scripted at all. So what about the 00? Where are we with that?
Well, 00. I mean
the new APT and the new P2's out. All these sort of things coming through.
Yeah, I mean, look, they've got new manufacturers, new approach. You've got a new, or relatively new now, development manager looking after Hornby, who's really made major differences to the way the models are developed. And you are seeing that come through with things like the P2. So you've got a good mixture of a new manager. You've got good designers there. Let's not forget, they are very good designers. And you've got a new manufacturer there. And the combination of that gives models like the P2 what they are. And you've got the turbo motive.
Yeah.
That's stunning. The development on the the steam sound and the steam emitting logos. That's again pretty groundbreaking and amazing.
I think that was the case when the HM 7000 came out, and I got one installed in a loco, and it was the first one that had a sound chip, so I never had a sound chip before, and you're hearing the steam, and immediately then you're wanting to see the steam. The one is a selling point for the other. I can imagine that having the steam generator without the sound would be strange, and in a way having the steam sound without the generator is strange. Once you have one, you want the other, because that's the way your senses are created in that area. You want to have the full experience of what you can.
Being able to link the motion with the sound and the steam all in sync is incredibly clever how it has been done, and it's so clever that there is a patent on that whole process.
Okay.
So I mean that's one of the reasons it has taken that little while to happen and come through. But I think it's fabulous, and you will see. I don't think you'll have literally like chips with everything, but you will have a lot of these locos coming through which will have that steam feature.
Sure.
Which is, adds that extra dimension, that atmosphere, etc., to a model railway.
Okay,
You won't necessarily want everything chucking out steam and everything shuffling away, because all you'd end up with is a cacophony. But it does add interest to a model railway, certainly at exhibitions.
Yes.
And again, exhibitions is where you're selling the hobby.
Yeah,
Let's
whole
not
thing.
forget what that's all about.
What about then, come on, out of 10, you haven't given us a mark. Where's 00?
Where are we with that? Well, yeah, with the developments I've seen, etc., and the way it's going, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8, 7 or 8. 8.
There you
give
go.
it 8.
You're moving up.
Yeah.
Right then, moving on to your baby, TT. A lot of people have been wondering, I suppose, without your enthusiasm for it in the company, will it be left to wither on the vine? What's your take on that? Will it still thrive? It seems to be, I'm reading between the lines a wee bit in my very limited capacity in these areas, it seems to be a bright spot on the company's finances, I would think, would be my take on what I can see that's there, but you'll know better than I do. What's your overall view on TT?
Well, I'm just. I think I mentioned about this book, and I've just been going through the first draft, and I get all excited all over again. I think it is an absolutely fabulous scale. There's something really magical about it, and whether it's the fact that what you are getting is a model that is truly 120 times smaller than the real thing, and there are no shortcuts or
compromises,
or problems you have as you have with UK Engage and obviously Double A. I mean, the world's its oyster. There's just so much that can be achieved. I think, as you say, in the report and accounts, yes, they have made a big thing about TT, and so they should, because I think it is arguably, the way things are, probably the greatest area that can be developed by the company, because of, with Double A, and I know people will disagree with that, but with Double A, you're at the point where all the good stuff, all the stuff that keeps on giving, it's already been made, or it's been made again, updated.
Yeah, retooled.
Car 47s have ever been produced by different kinds, Delties, 37s. I mean, they keep doing the same thing. And the reason they keep doing that is because, they're running out of subject matter that there is a ready-made and demand for, continuous demand for. So the beauty with TT is that they can listen to what the market is asking for and actually make it and produce it and answer that. And they have, at the present moment, the field open to them completely.
Yeah.
What would concern me is that if other companies decide, well, hang on a minute, let's put our toe in the water. Let's just see. Let's do a 37 or whatever, and see what the reaction is. And if they get a taste for it, what happens then? So I think it's certainly in Hornby's interest to keep focusing on TT, grow the market. They will need to grow the market a lot. It's only, it's not even a year old.
Sure.
So, with with double O, that's what, racing towards 80 years old.
Yeah.
So, that is, to me, an area that they can really focus on. But they'll have to accept that you won't get the same return on investment as quickly as you would do on, say, a loco like the P2.
Sure. Yeah, you haven't got the ready-made customer base for it yet. But I think double O, you have a mature market, so there's repeat custom, but it's hard, I would imagine, to get a lot of new custom. Whereas TT has that opportunity to be exponential in its growth for the first few years at least, and then hopefully carve out a sizable niche for itself.
Yeah, I think, again, I know people will argue with me on this. Where Engage is concerned, it is a bit at a level, really.
Yeah.
And obviously it will go up and go down as model railways increases popularity or decreases. Where TT is concerned, what you say, it's virgin area, and that's, to me, where, they can focus a lot of their attention and build the hobby there. Remembering, of course, that there's the rest of the world that they can go for as well.
Move out.
I know for a fact that the Flying Scotsman in the ET will sell very well, as will the Mannheim in Germany, as will the HST will sell quite well in Germany. If they were to produce a Eurostar, the latest Eurostar, that would do well right across Europe.
Of course, these are areas that kind of...
Yeah, and you've got Arnold producing models as well. And they produce some very nice container wagons, which eventually I'm sure will come into the UK.
Yeah.
Either under the Arnold brand or the Hornby TT.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going for it. And you're going to say, what do you want? 7, what's the score? And I think because it is what it is, it's still growing. I would give it 6, but next year it'll be 7 and grow. But it needs that enthusiasm, that passion, and that focus to keep pushing it forward.
Very good.
And that's what they need to do.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fine. I think that's a very full. I think that's right. I think it is. If you're giving it a score, as you have to comparatively, it can't be higher than the other ones because it hasn't been around so long. But relative to where it's been 1 year in, I think it's in a healthy place. And I'm certainly interested to see what comes next out of it.
Well, I think the thing is, it's overcome all these naysayers, who wanted to try and find anything and everything that they could criticise or ridicule or demean TT. And I think the fact that it's still going strong, there's still product coming through and will continue to come through and being developed, will, sort of silence these critics. As I say, the brand can only get stronger.
Sure.
But it does need, as I say, the continued push and the passion that it's had over this last year.
Okay, then the slightly more awkward question.
I will always keep banging on about it. Because I've been banging on about it for years. So,
Are you confident that there is still that passion within the company now that you've left? That's the question people really want to know.
Well, I'm not. The thing is, I'm not there.
Yeah.
I don't know, do I?
Yeah.
I can't say. I would like to think there is. I'm confident that people like Carl Hart and the designers are very, very passionate about it. I would imagine that Ollie Rayburn, being the chief exec, would remain to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because it's an area that can be worked on and developed and expanded upon. And that's a new market. It's not, as you said, it's not a mature market.
Yeah.
It's a new market.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be tackling.
Right then, and then to move on to the last area, which is just your, obviously not part of Hornby anymore. It seemed very sudden on the outside, at least to us. It seemed unusually timed. What can you say about it? What do you want to say about it? The floor is yours to kind of give as much or as little in response to that area that you think folk will want to hear.
It's very, I have to say, yes, it was sudden, and it wasn't necessarily part of my life plan. But when a company gets a new chief exec, you know that there will need to be changes. And I knew the minute that Lyndon Davis stepped down, the new chief exec was going to be appointed, which was well over a year previous. I knew that I would probably be finding myself moving on, whether of my own choice or whether it may be suggested I move. So it's always at the back of my mind, and I think the decision for me to move, which I left, I think was the end of May, was one of mutual agreement between Hornby and said, because I wouldn't. There's two things. I have so much respect for Hornby and real passion for Hornby that I wouldn't want to do anything that would harm it. And
sure.
If it was felt that new thinking was required, and I wasn't capable of that, or is considered incapable of that, then it would be the right thing for me to move. And I think that it was the right decision. As much as it sort of broke my heart leaving, it probably is the right thing to do.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily say I'm out of it altogether.
Yeah.
I still feel for Hornby, and I still wave the flag for Hornby.
Sure.
And I always probably will do.
Yeah.
Although, as I've said at the very beginning of all this, I can now step back and I can perhaps see some of the failings,
sure.
Which the company has, and can now be rectified, probably. But it's different. But the thing is different. The whole business, as I said at the very start, is changing, and I think Hornby may have to change as well.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I think there has to be a sensible looking at where your overheads are.
Yeah.
There's no point simply ploughing on the same furrow. Some things clearly have to change in order to be. I think it is vital to the industry that Hornby is still there.
Yes.
I must be honest. I think that would be a disaster for the industry. Some folk would sadly perhaps cheer it, but I can't see how it would possibly be good for model railways that there is no Hornby.
Hornby will always be there.
Yeah.
And it has to be, because that it is a cornerstone of the hobby. And it will evolve. I always look upon Hornby or any large company like it's a big oil tanker. You can't just change direction straight away. It takes time for an oil tanker to turn. And similarly, that's the same where Hornby is concerned. It will always be there. It will always survive. It's like a house. You know, this house I'm in is nearly 100 years old. I will go and somebody else will take it over. You know, it's not going to fall down.
Yeah, it'll still be there.
And that's the way of the world. And, you know, things evolve, things change, things move on. But what will always be constant is that Hornby will remain and will be there. And it'll have good times, it'll have bad times.
Yeah.
You know, like everything. So, yeah, I'm
You're optimistic in that regard.
very, very, very optimistic.
Okay.
You know, it's in my blood. It can't be anything else.
Well, thank you, Simon. I like to end with a slightly different question, as you know. So this time I thought I'd ask, because a lot of the focus inevitably falls on yourself, but how about Montana? How's Montana doing? She has her own very ardent fans who enjoyed seeing her at different points. So how's Montana?
Yeah, I've never really understood that, why she has all this following. Right, well, yeah, she was, she's a very smart person, very clever, very career-minded, and really, you know, a great asset to Hornby. But she was looking, and she looked further afield. She's actually working now for a company called Dignity, which is I don't know what you call it, you know, funeral. They have funerals. It's a national. Can you have chains of funeral parlours?
I don't know is the short answer.
It's a whole. It is a massive company that obviously handles funeral and bereavement services. From what I understand, she gets her own shovel, and you know, I don't think she shares one. But she's handling their marketing. As you know, there is marketing. Yeah. It's dealing with lots of the various aspects of that company, which has operations all over the UK. So it's a new career challenge for her, but I know she will make a success of it. Yeah. But no, she's fine. She's still, got wrinkles. Her dog.
So as well as you added that, it's a clarification that there was a dog that has wrinkles.
What? Sorry? You
said there she has wrinkles, and then you said it's a dog. Sorry, so as well you added the clarification that it's a dog that you're referring to there.
What is it? A British bulldog.
Oh, right.
Which hence the wrinkles.
Yeah, that ties in. Yeah, very good.
So that's her. That's the love of her life. Anyway,
excellent.
I could really, really embarrass her by saying some of the stories. But you know what? I might put that down on paper.
That'll be in the book.
Put it on my new website.
That's it. We look forward to it, Simon. Thank you very much indeed. And I hope that those of you watching on have enjoyed catching up and finding out what's been happening for Simon, and appreciate the time you've given us once more.
No problem, Greg. Happy to do it, mate.